You're watching the NewsHour Agenda. I'm Padmaja Joshi. What a day it has been. Without seeming overly jingoistic, it's safe to say that China really got it on the chin today. First came a report by an Australian newspaper that China grossly underreported the casualties that they suffered in Galwan. And then in the evening, the Indian government, via the MEA, responded firmly to China's attempt to politicize the Winter Olympics. After China made Keith Abao, a PLA regiment commander from Galwan, the torchbearer in its Winter Olympic torch relay, India made it clear that they will not take this deliberate provocation lying down.
Yes, we have seen the reports on this issue. It is indeed regrettable that the Chinese side has chosen to politicize an event like the Olympics. I wish to inform that our chargé d'affaires of the Embassy of India in Beijing will not be attending the opening or the closing ceremony of the Beijing 22 Winter Olympics.
In fact, this man who was made the torchbearer has since been identified as Colonel Keith Abao. Pictures of him that have surfaced on Chinese social media show very clearly how he sustained serious head wounds in the Galwan skirmish. That picture you see is of him in the middle, 1.5 years since the Galwan skirmish, with the scabs of the head wounds that he suffered still very visible. However, all of these developments, significant as they are on their own, are doubly important because they come 24 hours after the Indian government was pulled up by Rahul Gandhi inside Parliament for what he called is a lack of a coherent response to China's aggression. Today it became clear that diplomatically and militarily at least, India has demonstrated it means business. And as for Mr. Gandhi's accusation, even the United States today refused to endorse his assessment.
The single biggest, you can ask anybody who understands, the single biggest strategic goal of India's foreign policy has been to keep Pakistan and China separate. This is fundamental for India. And what you have done is you have brought them together.
I will leave it to the Pakistanis and the PRC to speak to their relationship. I certainly would not endorse those remarks.
You're watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 1 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
Padmaja Joshi, MP and national spokesperson of the BJP, joins us. Colonel Dinny, defence expert, will be joining us in just a bit. Tehseen Poonawala, Gokul Chandran, both political analysts, and veteran Lieutenant Colonel Anil Dahoon is also with us. I want to start with you, Gokul Chandran, diplomatically, and let's take each issue one by one. When you have the MEA today saying that what you did with the Winter Olympics is a definite provocation and we are going to respond to it diplomatically, is this a reassurance that at least when you say there is no clear vision, diplomatically there's a very clear vision, that every such provocation will be responded to?
Good evening, Padmaja. It is a very good response. I totally agree to that. Maybe I will take it in this way that since Rahul Gandhi raised the issue yesterday in Parliament, the government got serious, the government has responded and has listened to the opposition voices.
All right, so you're saying this is a Rahul Gandhi impact. I'm sorry, your voice was a little muffled, so I couldn't hear you very clearly. Are you saying this is a Mr. Gandhi impact?
No. Since we are discussing Rahul Gandhi's speech in Lok Sabha yesterday, I would like to say both can be connected. Since the discussion is basically on Rahul Gandhi's Lok Sabha speech,
yes,
it can be connected very well.
Okay, so you are saying this is an impact, if I am understanding you correctly. That today the Indian government was spurred into action after being given a tongue lashing by Mr. Gandhi.
Yes, exactly. I would like to take it that way.
All right, very nice. Aparajita Sarangi, at least he woke you out of your slumber.
A very good evening. First time I got to know that Rahul Gandhi also makes an impact. I'm the member of the Lok Sabha and I was sitting there. Absolutely incoherent monologue. He did not know what he was saying. I would say incomprehensible too. 2 sentences could not be attached to one another and could not give a single, a single sense, a single thought to the audience, to the people like us who were sitting there and watching him. Now, having said that, let me tell you that as far as the China issue is concerned, the attitude and the approach of India is very clear. Whatever China has done by declaring Colonel Qi Fabao as the torchbearer of the Winter Olympics cannot be accepted by India. And India firmly told the people there in the embassy of India in China that the envoy would not be going to the closing and the opening ceremony. And this is how we have expressed our disapproval of the entire stand of China. Qi Fabao led the attack during the Galwan Valley clashes against India. Okay. And we know what happened. 20 Indian soldiers had been killed. And let me tell you, at that point of time also, China tried to have an upper hand by showing that only 4 Chinese soldiers had been actually killed, or rather they had met death.
Okay.
But the fact remains that the Australian newspaper Klaxon clearly stated that 42 Chinese soldiers have been killed.
Okay, we'll take this one by one. Colonel Dahoon, your response from Galwan to now diplomatically, at least the message of intent has been made very clear, even if some may think that this is in response to what Mr. Gandhi said yesterday. Clearly what happened in June 2020 is not in response to Mr. Gandhi. It is a declaration of intent. 42 Chinese soldiers got it on the chin, even though we lost 20 of our own. Colonel Dahoon.
Good evening, Padmaja.
Good evening.
Before going to what is being said or what has been said, let me just bring out few facts. China intruded in Ladakh in 2020. Our reactions since then, banning Chinese app. Our athletes are participating in Beijing Winter Olympics, but Ministry of External Affairs, they say that we are not participating. Now, look at the trade with China with effect from 2020 onwards. We were importing $66.7 billion worth. But after Galwan, we are importing $97.5 billion worth. We have already had 14 rounds of disengagement, but there is no tangible results which we have seen on ground.
No, sir, that is not correct. You're a veteran, sir. You know better than that. No, Colonel Dahoon, that is unfair. On the trade, I completely give you. After 14 rounds of talks, there has been disengagement at 3 major points. Please, this is disinformation. This is disinformation, sir. Are you saying that we have not disengaged? From the Kailash Ranges, we have not disengaged? We have not disengaged in the north bank of Pangong So?
You have to hear me out.
No, but sir, what you are saying is factually incorrect. You are saying after 14 rounds there has been no tangible movement, which is factually completely wrong.
Padmaja, hear me out.
Sir, are you saying there has been no movement?
Hear me out at least.
But sir, what you are saying is factually wrong.
But let me finish.
Okay,
I am going
finish.
to justify. Yeah.
Right, go on, finish.
So what I am saying is that even after 14 rounds of disengagement talks, we have not been able to achieve any tangible result vis-a-vis what our positions were before 2020 April end. Yes, we have moved back. Yes, China has moved back. Yes, the buffer zones have been created. But have we reached a point where we can say with confidence that we are April 2020 NT positions? No, we are not.
I'm going to let Colonel Dinny respond to that because we'll address specifics. Colonel Dinny, first address the issue of, you say, or rather the MEA says, we are not going to participate in opening and closing ceremony, but our athletes, contrary to what the US has done, will participate in the event itself, which is why Mr. Gandhi says you have a yo-yo approach. There is a lack of clarity, there's a lack of vision.
See, ma'am, as far as this particular diplomatic action is concerned, each diplomatic action would have been thought of very well, and that's how they would have given it a after due thought process. They would have arrived at this, that the process, the initial opening and the closing ceremonies need not be attended, but I think, and I believe there's only one athlete from Kashmir who's attending that. So let the athlete go ahead, and it is all these are messaging. The fact that a person who was part of the Galwan clash he's taking the torchbearer, was made a torchbearer. Similarly, this is a messaging from India that if in case he's there, we will not participate in the opening and closing ceremony. So these are, in diplomatic parlance, these are symbolic gestures. Now, by what the China has done, they have, I just want to add a few more points here. Now, why is it that Chinese have made it constantly that they are trying to give this thing that Galwan happened, and Galwan, the heroes were there, and the same soldier is carrying the torch. The same kind of photographs were seen in Galwan. Precisely, ma'am, because they suffered very badly there, and that is the report which came out today. You read about any articles which are coming there, it is more of internal issues due to which all these torch bearing and all those things happening, not for external. And similarly, India's action also is to show to the world that a person who carries the torch and who was responsible for the Galwan things, we will not take it lightly. So at appropriate diplomatic gesture, we've also shown it. As and when that calibration is required, I think that can be changed.
Tehzeen Poonawalla, militarily there is definitely a problem, but it's the political issue which is more pressing here. When we are in our parliament to size up China as the country with a clear vision which knows exactly what it's doing, and to project India as bumbling along, is that a fair assessment? Again, we're going to quote to you that 42 soldiers were killed in Galwan of the PLA. China hid those casualties. A cover-up does not become clear vision. It's just cover-up. It may seem impressive to us, but it's still a cover-up.
Good evening, Padmaja. Thank you so much for having me on your show. Good evening to my fellow panelists, your viewers, and thank you to Colonel Dini and Colonel Anil Doon for the service they've rendered to our country. We are safe because of people like you. So thank you so much. Padmaja, I'm glad that you took this matter to the Galwan clashes of May 5th, 2020. And I completely endorse what Colonel Anil Doon said. May I just be allowed to go back into time, as you said. The Galwan clashes in May 5th, 2020 were not sudden, Padmaja. As you're aware, and as the two defense experts here are aware, that in March and April, March onwards, every year, India and China conduct military exercises in Ladakh. However, in 2020, the Indian military did not do the military exercises because they were involved with Operation Namaskar to do with COVID, but China went ahead with the military exercises. Since then, and I've repeatedly said this on your show, 18 reports were sent to the Home Ministry from the Indian Tibetan Border Patrol Force that patrols that area, and 19 satellite images that China was intruding into our territory. The Home Minister and Ajit Dovalji completely ignored it, which led to the clashes on May 5th, 2020. Yes, we did kill more Chinese men. Indian soldiers and their bravery was never in doubt. 67, 68 in Natula and Chola, we defeated them. When Martyr Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi was Prime Minister, China backtracked after Operation Checkerboard, and we declared Arunachal Pradesh to be a state. So China has, after 62, where defeated India, has lost 2 wars to India. So of course we killed more of their soldiers. However, the onus of Colonel Santosh Babu and the 19 other Indian martyrs is only due to the fault of the Home Ministry, and that is where they lack vision. Second thing, where I endorse Colonel Dood, and please allow me to complete. Since the disengagement, there are 2 issues. The Honorable Prime Minister on Times Now and various other channels said nobody entered our territory.
Okay.
Nobody entered our territory.
Just a second, because I think we must address that specific issue. And to that, that was very interesting. I was actually reading Ramchandra Guha's book earlier, and what happened today reminded me of that. So I want to read out to you an extract from Ramchandra Guha's essay, where he actually said, just a second, because you spoke of how historically India had always responded strongly to China, but it's since 2014 that we have continued to be weak in front of them. Actually, Ramchandra Guha said that an Indian who had a different and a more realistic view of Mao and his comrades was the Home Minister Vallabhbhai Patel. When China invaded Tibet in October 1950, Patel wrote to Nehru that communism is no shield against imperialism and that the communists are as good or bad as imperialists as any other. The PM, however, continued to give the Chinese benefit of doubt. Speaking in Indian Parliament in December 1950, Nehru ji said, some honorable members seem to think that I should issue an ultimatum to China, that I should warn them not to do this or that I should send them a letter saying that it is foolish to follow the doctrine of communism. I do not see how it is going to help anyone if I act in this fashion, and the rest, as they say, is history. So if we are talking about a weak-kneed response, and you'd be amazed to know that Mr. Guha's essay actually is called Jawaharlal Nehru and China, a study in failure.
That's true. But
very pertinent on this day, wouldn't you think?
Sure, but please may I be allowed to? Yes. And I did say in my opening remarks that we did lose in 62 to China. Of course we suffered more casualties. Of course we lost the war. But since then, in 67, under Martyr Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, we defeated China at Nathulan Chola. In 87, when China looked at us in the eyes and dared to take over Arunachal Pradesh,
which is exactly what happened in Galwan. Tehsil Poonawalla, which is exactly what happened in Galwan. Yes, we suffered casualties, but we gave it as good as we, or gave them a bloody nose.
That's not what happened. Please. Yes,
no, Galwan, it did not happen that way.
Please allow me to complete. Colonel, I'll just take 2 minutes.
Is that not what happened at Galwan, Colonel Doon? Because the Australian report seems to suggest that.
Padmaja, I have not completed. Just allow me to complete. I'll take less than 30 seconds.
Okay, please complete, then I really must go to the others. Yes.
I agree with Colonel that our army did give them more than a bloody nose. We smashed their faces. You showed the visuals. But it is our Prime Minister. Neither Martyr Prime Minister Indira Gandhi nor Martyr Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi backtracked. They called China the enemy that it was China to invite Rajiv Gandhi. Here Prime Minister Modi on Times Now said nobody invaded our territory. Then why did we lose 20
So when did India backtrack in Galwan? When did India backtrack in Galwan? You're saying we never backtracked earlier, but we backtracked in Galwan. How exactly?
The Prime Minister backtracked.
How?
And even after 14 rounds of disengagement,
how did India backtrack if you've killed 42 men, 42 PLA soldiers? How is that backtracking?
I heard your question. Please allow me to answer it. Even after the Prime Minister gave China a clean chit, and yes, we killed more Chinese soldiers, in the 14 rounds of disengagement, I quote Times of India, after the disengagement process, China has built a bridge connecting the north and south of Pangong Tso, and Colonel Anil Doot is absolutely right. We cannot patrol up to finger 8. That has been the political failure of our leadership.
Okay, would you say, Colonel Dini, that India has backtracked unlike what was done earlier?
I think, Mr. Tehsin, you made some points and very valid points, but let me just speak out of personal experience. This telling of this, we have not been able to go up till finger 8. Mr. Tehsin, you must understand that the Chinese is not able to come till finger 4 also. So that is the thing. It is not that it's just one-sided. And till finger 4 they used to come on vehicles. Until finger 8 we used to go on foot. So that is the difference. So to say that nothing has happened after the 14 rounds of talk, I don't think is correct. The fact that there is some kind of status quo in North Bank is something which we cannot miss out. And as far as the issue of Galwan is concerned, as far as somebody coming inside, why did the Galwan clash happen? Is it because that the Chinese came into our territory? When you say into our territory, the entire Aksai chain is our territory. There's no doubt in our mind. When we say into our territory, it is the line of where we are actually having the actual control, where the army is standing. So where the army is standing, nobody has come inside that. So when you say, and Mr. Tehsin, prime ministers don't fight the war. It is the soldiers who fight the war. Whether it is Srimati Indira Gandhi, whether it is Prime Minister Modi, whosoever it is, on ground it is the soldiers like me and Colonel Doon, we are the people who are there. So for them, the orders, the line is very clear that nobody comes in. And Colonel Doon, Santosh Babu and people fought there.
Colonel Doon, then to build up the adversary as some, great military giant and to paint India as a dwarf in front of them, is that a fair assessment? And for that to happen inside Parliament?
No. See, when you are in the process of disengagement, now what happens is that the adversaries, they hold certain strong points. We hold certain strong points. But by vacating Kailash Heights, I think that that is one strategical mistake which we have committed. And if you see the...
Sir, if I may very respectfully pause you there, you may think it is a strategic mistake, but how is it bowing in front of China? We got them to move out of their positions. As a reciprocity, we vacated Kailash Heights. My simple question to you is, give me one example of how India has appeared weak-kneed as opposed to a clear-visioned China. One example.
Where is the doubts? I have not understood.
Doubt about what?
The Prime Minister himself says that nobody entered, nobody took our place, and we have lost 20 boys and we are justifying by 42 of their boys. How come a Prime Minister is giving clean sheet to China and then saying that we are at a strong footing? We are not. What are we talking about?
Okay, so you're saying we are weaker when compared to China. We are weak.
No, we have been made to look like weak.
How are we made to look weak? If in a clash, if somebody comes into your house and manages to kill 4 people and you kill 8 of them, does that make you weak? They entered your house. You pushed them out. They killed 4 of yours. You killed 8 of theirs, but you are weak.
Okay. 15th June 2020 till date, our Prime Minister has not been able to muster courage of naming China, if you want to listen in as many words.
Okay. So we are back to naming China. Aparajita Sarangi.
No, it's not naming China.
Okay.
We have given a clean
So 42 dead PLA soldiers is not an admission of intent, is not a declaration of intent. It has to be about saying China is the enemy.
Why not?
Can you?
Aparajita Sarangi.
Why not?
Cynicism is a disease, let me say. Cynicism is a disease many of us suffer from. I just request people like Rahul Gandhi and our esteemed panelists not to suffer from this disease. See, please understand that the government under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi is very firm in its approach towards China, right? And this is absolutely clear after what we did today. In fact, 42, this number has not been brought out by us. Of course, we have been telling since 15th June 2020 that many of the Chinese soldiers had been killed and not just 4. In fact, 4 soldiers were posthumously awarded, honored by the Chinese government. We did not agree to that figure because we knew this number was much more. The Australian newspaper, the Clackstone, brought out these numbers after in-depth research, and that's what has come to everybody's table today, and which is what we are discussing today. We 20, they 42. So now you decide who had the upper hand. And as far as China is concerned, you know, we are very firm in our approach.
Gokul Chandran.
Absolutely no compromise.
Gokul Chandran, just again, Gokul Chandran wants to come in. Gokul Chandran, yes.
Yes.
See, I don't understand our honorable member of parliament telling that. We lost 20 lives. That is the biggest thing. It doesn't matter how much we kill. We lost 20 of our precious lives because of the diplomatic failure of our government, because of the diplomatic failure of our external affairs ministry. That is what really matters. Our army jawans, our brave army people have lost their life because of your inefficiency. Bear that in mind. Yesterday what Rahul Gandhi said, Rahul Gandhi just said that in presidential address, it was in a reply to the presidential address, these important issues were not addressed. Is it wrong for an Indian citizen to point out that such an important, crucial issue has not been pointed out in presidential address? Is that a crime? And you are quoting an Australian newspaper. Again, we have failed to bring that out so that we have to depend on an Australian newspaper. We have not brought it out. Still we are sleeping. China is setting the tone.
Sir, just a second. This is only by way of reinforcing what India has always claimed. Beginning with the Prime Minister who had said that we gave it back as good as we got and then some. The former Northern Army commander also said that China is letting on 4 casualties, but the casualties are much, much higher. So India has said this earlier. Now it is being independently verified by others. Nobody is saying we have to depend on what Australia tells us.
Yeah, Padmaja, do you know where we are lacking vision? China is setting the tone and we are defending. We are not able to set the tone for China to follow us. Whatever China does, we are following and we are defending and we are not taking the upper hand.
Okay.
That is where
Okay, I'm going to give the final word to Colonel Dinny because we've already...
I just need 10 seconds.
Okay, 10 seconds, Tehseen Poonawalla, then I want to give the final word to Colonel Dinny. Yes.
Padmaja, the Honorable MP did not answer this question. When China entered our territory in Ladakh, there were 18 warnings given to the Honorable Home Ministry and Ajit Doval and satellite images. Why? How could they enter? Did you have an intelligence failure or was the Home Minister and Ajit Doval incompetent? I want a specific answer. How did they enter? Please give us a specific answer.
Okay, can I please...
Tell me I'm wrong that satellite images did not go. Tell me I'm wrong and file a case on me if I'm wrong.
See, Honorable Prime Minister Modi has been telling, and you know, this is the input that we have received from our people there at the borders. 50,000 to 60,000 troops. This side and 60,000 troops that side. They are all there. Nobody has entered. There was skirmish. Nobody entered our territory. Nobody entered our territory.
Then why did we lose 20 people if nobody entered?
No one has entered our territory.
Then why did we lose 20 people?
The skirmish has started just because, you know, there was a bridge. And for that bridge on June 6th, there was a war between the two. There was scuffle between the two.
Okay, the issue of how did they manage to enter? I think we need to have a much longer conversation on that. But the point made here by the veteran is, have we lost the initiative, Colonel Dinny, when it comes to dealing with China? They are setting the rules for us and we are reacting. And that is what the opposition says is short-sighted.
No, absolutely not. I don't think so that, they are setting the rules and we are following. No. We are not a nation who goes into, other countries and do all this, kind of activities which Chinese do. Do we do that? Do we go into Bangladesh or do we go into Myanmar or do such like things? No. So when China is doing, and she's not doing only to us, she's doing entirely to all other nations. So when our act is done, we give it in kind. Whether it is the Galwan type incident, when it is there, and I'm very clear in my mind that having served there, that what would have happened between two infantry battalions when they fight, and especially the kind of thing when a commanding officer has been killed. So there is no doubt that whether it is physical activities or other activities, whether on the border or otherwise, we are giving it back in kind. And now let's, unless we say that okay, let's change the total national security policy and we get into the offensive mode and all. But the question is, do we have the capability? The capability does not come in 10 years, 20 years. It takes a lot of time for that. So within all the constraints what we have, I think this is the best reaction which we can. And let's also not forget that China internally is having a lot of issues. So that also, please don't, let's not play into their hands by all these political divisions which we have in our nation.
We may have huge differences when it comes to strategy, especially when you have veterans, military veterans here on the panel. But simply to say that China is some kind of military giant, if it really was the case, would a country like that deny dignity in death to 38 of their own, who they have refused to even acknowledge over the last 1.5 years? I will leave you with that thought. Thanks very much, all gentlemen, and Aparajita Sarangi for joining me.